gonna be great.
Thank you.
We got this.
Hi, I'm Firuza Chisamodabashi. I'm the host of Be Frank podcast, a podcast about entrepreneurship, careers, and other important matters. Today we have Hannah Phang. Hannah, for those who don't know you, tell us who you are and what you do.
Ooh, yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. What an honor to be here on the Be Frank podcast. So yeah, my name's Hannah Phang. I'm the co-founder and CMO of a company called The Now Work. We are a talent platform and consultancy for sustainability. I've kind of built my career in sustainability for about the last 10 years. And prior to that, I was working in fashion and advertising and really just found the immense power of those industries. They're so influential in terms of their branding and communications and their cultural influence. But I really wanted to see how do we use those tools for positive change rather than just for buying more stuff. So I ended up switching my career into sustainability. So have spent the last 10 years or so working between sustainability consulting, doing some work in-house for brands as well. And then now the Now Work is 3 years old and we've been doing that ever since.
Congrats.
Thank you.
I know that you have been going through some rebranding. Do you want to also talk about what is Now Work and why it rebranded and what does it represent now?
Yes, definitely. So when we originally started, it was in 2022 and it was in the thick of the Great Resignation. It was outside of lockdowns, but it was still kind of at the end of the pandemic. And we just saw huge floods of people from our network, from our community, leaving their full-time jobs, moving into freelance and contract work in the sustainability space. And at the time, there was no platform that was specifically for sustainability professionals to find freelance contracts or project-based work. So we thought we would create it. So we launched in November of 2022. We kind of spent the first year really validating it as a business idea because we had seen it work in other industries, but not yet in sustainability. And I would say our first year was definitely a success. We had our first paying client like the day after we launched, which was amazing. So we thought, okay, we're on to something. And then over time, what we found is it ended up being that clients wouldn't come to us necessarily for a specific role and this almost transactional exchange. They really needed more of a partner to help them figure out, okay, here's a challenge I have or a problem that I need help solving. What are the skills that I need? So we ended up doing so much more consulting and being really a sounding board for a lot of our clients to help figure out actually what they needed to do. So we've actually been doing that for the last couple of years, but we've officially relaunched as a talent platform and a consultancy. So what has been amazing is, we'll work with clients in much bigger capacities and we'll actually build teams of people from our talent network, but to operate or act like an agency team or as a consultancy team. So we can get a lot more in the weeds supporting our clients. We still do the talent matching side of things, so both contractors as well as permanent recruitment we started doing. But now we also can work in this bigger way, so taking on kind of bigger problems or challenges in partnership with our clients. And what we found is, one, it's like way more efficient as a way of working because we're bringing in really bespoke expertise to whatever the client challenge is rather than having more of a generalist agency team. So we bring in that exact expertise that they need, but also because the sustainability landscape is changing so frequently, we can be super agile in our process as well and respond to whatever the context is, both internally within an organization, but also within the wider landscape. So it's been really exciting to work with clients in this way, and even more exciting now to share a little bit more publicly that we're operating in these two ways, the talent matching and the consultancy.
And that's very impressive because you're the entrepreneur, you're co-founder, you kind of adapted to the client needs or the customer needs, where you had an idea what you thought the market need was. And when you actually started delivering the work, you realized, okay, as an entrepreneur, I need to have some change because the actual impact comes from here, and just like rebranded it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is the really fun thing about being an entrepreneur and having your own business is being able to pivot when you need to pivot. And I think what we found is sometimes clients would come to us for example, they were looking for a PR specialist. And when we started having conversations with them, from our background in consulting, we realized if you start communicating about this now, you are really going to get bad press about it because you don't have the strategy or the infrastructure, or even like the actions behind the scenes to be credible to communicate about it. So we then could help steer our clients in the right direction of actually you need this specialist before you need a comms person. And so being able to constantly be in communication with our customers, with our clients, allowed us to see that this more transactional model only works for certain clients if they like really know exactly what they need. But for a lot of other clients who are newer on their sustainability journey from like a business standpoint, needed more of a guide or an advisor to help them walk through the process of what it means to have a corporate sustainability strategy. What are the things that you need to have in place, both from a regulatory perspective, but also just from an industry standard perspective, and then helping them with communications once we've done that initial foundational work.
What do you then think the difference between an employee or a consultant, because you had your background in consultancy, you work for companies, and then now you're the owner. What was the difference, and how did you acquire those skills, or in the work itself, like what was the main challenges for you when you suddenly found yourself, okay, I need to make this business work because it's not mine?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think for us, my co-founder and I, we're super lucky that we've both spent a lot of time working in the sustainability agency, sustainability consultancy realm. So we had a really strong network from our previous experience. We had a lot of experience ourselves working with clients in different organizations. So we had a really strong sense of what the landscape is, what the client's needs were initially. And also we had those relationships already built up as well. I think for us, when we felt the leap to start our own thing, is we really just saw a shift in how people wanted to work. And so there was this like kind of opportunity glaring at us. And sometimes you do just have to take the leap. Yeah. And that's kind of what entrepreneurship is about, is like weighing out what's the opportunity, how confident am I in this idea and our ability to execute it. So there's a big difference, I think, between working towards someone else's goal that you really believing in someone else's vision and helping achieve that vision by working as an employee within an organization, and seeing your own goal and your own opportunity and then taking the leap to move forward and try to build something towards that.
Definitely. I think it's really impressive, because I think almost downplaying in the sense of you took the leap, but you had no idea about the brand building or accounting and all of these things coming in, and just were, we'll do it and just learn along the way, which is, I think, really impressive for someone who has an idea and they maybe feel scared of, they have a technical expertise like you had, but maybe they're lacking of the courage of, what if I build this business and I can't, deliver the business side of it or the marketing side of it, and you were like, no, we'll learn it.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a huge risk for sure. I think for me, I had started a business like in the past, so I had built up a little bit, I guess, of that risk tolerance of being able to take the leap. But also for me as well, I was still working in another job when we started the business. So my business partner, she actually went like full into the like life of entrepreneurship immediately. So she took even bigger risk than I did, to really do it full time from the get-go. And I was still working somewhere else when we got the ball rolling on the now work. So yeah, it depends kind of on your risk appetite. But also, I'm so lucky to have such a wonderful co-founder, because she also was on the management team at a previous business. So she had some experience already of like what it meant to build a business, run a team of people, look at the financials, the accounting, the business model, the pricing. But we talk about that a lot, and I think that's a huge part of running your own business is sometimes you're working on the business and sometimes you're working in the business. So half the time we need to think about what is our strategy as a business, how are we like pricing things, what is our marketing strategy, what's our long-term business strategy, and the other half of the time we're actually like delivering client work, we're doing the talent matching, so we're working in the business as employees as well.
Yes. Do you ever get time off from your work?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the other huge benefits of entrepreneurship is like you are building your own business. You can design it in whatever way you want. And for us, I think because we saw this big shift in how people wanted to work, we had calls with the freelancers and contractors who registered with us when we first got started. And overwhelmingly, people were saying like they left their jobs because work didn't work for their life anymore. And so they needed more flexibility. Either they became parents or became caregivers or were just like so burnt out by old school ways of working. It just wasn't like personally sustainable for them anymore. And so when we started this business, it was a huge part of our values is like we need to create a business that actually works for our life. So we really didn't want to go down the route of like grind, hustle, tech bro, startup culture. We wanted to build a business in the way that actually worked for us and the life that we wanted to like live whilst building a business too.
So it was sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Definitely. So you don't believe that 996 of San Francisco tech bros?
No, I think it's just like if it works for you, great. But I think there's like a huge narrative that is what having a startup and having your own business has to look like. And we wanted to be very conscious and very mindful to just like not get too influenced or swayed into feeling that way when crafting our business. And I think what it meant was that we then ended up needing to be incredibly strategic in how we're spending our time, so that we are making the most of the time that we are working on the business, so we don't feel like we have to work on it 24 hours a day. We can just be really smart about how we're spending our time to ensure that we do actually have a profitable, sustainable business.
Okay, Hannah. Now I want to ask you some questions more towards advice for 18-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 20-year-olds in college to understand maybe the industries they're trying to break in, what is happening in the industry, what type of trends that are happening. So when you're talking with the clients or even, networking with people, what type of technological changes you see and what the clients are asking for? Do they ever ask AI, for example, when they come into you? Or are they questioning this to even look into different AI tools, data tools, like what they are looking for?
Yeah, I think from a like data technology standpoint, a lot of our clients are looking to it for reporting, data collection. I think everyone's quite open at the moment in terms of available solutions. As we've said, the industry is changing so quickly. Regulation is coming in so quickly. So I think people definitely are looking for efficiencies of where to find it. But I think a lot of the technology just like doesn't seem to be quite there yet in terms of having the scale. I think the stuff that we are seeing that does have the scale already are things like carbon accounting. I guess maybe the more like traditional things when you think about sustainability and what's required, but things like the digital product passports, regulation around traceability, the regulation around recycling. I think we're still waiting for like big scalable solutions that companies can really adopt from that standpoint. But again, the regulation is so new and customers and our clients are really still trying to figure out what regulation even applies to them, that there's still, a lot of kind of question marks of what works, what doesn't work, what's everyone trying, what's everyone doing. I think from our standpoint with AI, a lot of clients are coming to us asking around, in what ways can we use this? I think it really helps from like a reporting and data collection standpoint. I think what we're seeing a lot of the time, though, is people still really value that human experience. So clients will come to us asking for guidance and advice, and we can connect them with someone who has been in sustainability for the last 20 years. They've been through thick and thin of like leading in the industry, and they still really value that human connection, human insight, because I think what we've seen is sustainability is really shifting to go from strategy to implementation. And on the implementation side of things, so much of it is about relationship building, both internally and externally. And so that human connection isn't something that can be replaced by technology at the moment. So that is actually a skill set that we're seeing, or at least I'm seeing, for a lot of our clients who seem to really be thriving in their careers and really making a lot of impact within their organization. It's those of who have that like skill set of stakeholder engagement and relationship building to really get people to see the value that sustainability can provide to them.
Yeah, that's very fair enough. Probably the online buzz about AI almost makes it feel like it's coming for everything, but maybe especially in the sustainability industry, there's so many groundwork has to happen yet to be able to really unlock even the power of some large language models or some deterministic models. Maybe it's more applicable to some tech companies where they're very digitalized, but often the scope is so wide that you have to work with people. You have to understand how in the ground things work. Okay, I'm gonna now have some pop quiz with yes or no, would you rather, and some pick ones. And I prepared these questions of Redditors, looked online, what were the most asked questions around career, startups. So it's gonna be rapid fire, and I want you to just go and answer.
Okay, I'll do my best. I tend to be long-winded, but I'll see.
No pressure. Okay, would you quit a stable job before securing your next role?
Yeah, I don't know if that's good advice for people. I think, again, it very much depends on your own risk tolerance and how. But I think there's a lot of harm in staying in a job that you hate and is super toxic. But there's also value in ensuring that you can pay your bills until you know how you're going to get your next paycheck. So I think that's a very personal question depending on each person's circumstances. But I think I was very lucky that I had another job whilst we were starting the network, which allowed me to start something. Yeah.
What about degree matters more than portfolio for your break-in, even for your industry?
I personally, I love school and I love education and but I honestly think that having your portfolio is actually more impactful for your career now.
Networking events beat online useful contacts, such as LinkedIn.
I definitely think networking events, that's when I think about all the career moves that I made, it was all through personal connection. So I think, the more that you can network, spend time with people, grab coffees, you never know who you're going to meet and then who they'll introduce you to. And that has been so valuable for me. Obviously, I think it is still important to build up your kind of profile and your personal brand online. But in my experience, building up those relationships has been the most fruitful.
Definitely. And it could be uncomfortable at first. Networking events might look so overwhelming, but just go for it.
Yeah.
What about, have you negotiated every salary in your first job?
I have negotiated my salary. I think I have also had experiences not negotiating my salary. I would say there's no harm in asking is what I wish I had done. I wish I had negotiated every salary. I didn't. But I got a lot of value from negotiating my salary. So I would say, there's no harm in asking.
Yeah, always just send it back once.
Yeah.
Okay, would you rather double a salary at a boring job or same pay at a dream mission?
I mean, for me, obviously, dream mission, I took an 100% pay cut because we started with nothing. But yeah, for me, I find it so much more motivating to work on something that you care about. And for us, we bootstrapped the business. We don't have any investors. So we had to figure out how are we making money very quickly. So that, that provided motivation and incentive for us to do that. But I think, I just find working at something that I don't care about, I just won't work on it. So that's me.
You're just drained.
Yeah.
Okay. Would you rather ship an MVP this week or wait 3 months for polish?
What I have learned is that ship an MVP as soon as possible. You'll learn so much more. So that is definitely, if you want to go down the entrepreneur route, I think even like if you're working within a business and want to start piloting something, getting it out into the world, whether that means just internally or externally, you'll learn so much more once like your customers actually start interacting with what you've created.
Okay, Hannah, my last question to you is, if you were to, have a heart-to-heart conversation with your 16 or 18-year-old self, it doesn't have to be fully career related, but you are going to give some advices to her, what would that be?
Such a good question, and I have thought about this upon reflection of my life. I think my two big pieces of advice that I would give myself, the first is to trust your gut or your instinct. I think a lot of time in my experience, I would overthink things or just try to think through, okay, what's the logical choice here? And upon reflection, like my gut instinct always knew what the path should be. And oftentimes in my life, I would take one pathway and then something would happen and the universe would get me back on the other path. So I think for me, it's more efficient and less painful if you trust your gut and just kind of go with what you intuitively feel you should do or need to do. So trust your gut. And then the second one is to just back yourself. Like if you believe in yourself, if you really feel passionately about something, give it a go. And I think the other thing with that is if you know that you want to go from point A to point B, trust that there are a million different ways to get there. So as long as you're clear on what the goal is, trust in your ability to get there. And so if one door closes, take a different pathway. So I think those are my two pieces of advice that I would give my younger self.
Very well. I feel like I would have also liked to hear those two. And if there are people telling you can't in any XYZ, just find people who support you and continue going for it, because there will be ways that you're going to be maybe unsuccessful or learn mistakes, but then you're going to definitely have some good memories along the way.
For sure.
Thank you so much. This was lovely. Hannah, thank you for being with us. I hope that this will be helpful for anyone who's interested in what is having your own business, but at the same time, having the career jumps or going into sustainability. So this was really helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun.